Donald Trump is easily the weakest president in American history, and honestly, it isn't even close. He demonstrates this every single day, but he's going above and beyond to prove it during what was supposed to be the most critical bilateral meeting of his second term. Today, he arrived in China in a total state of humiliation. Not just because no one of any real substance actually showed up to greet him, but because he looked weak as hell just walking down the stairs of that plane. This important summit is literally falling apart before our very eyes, being blown up in real time as Donald Trump does everything in his power to give China whatever they want, while getting absolutely nothing in return. We are going to get into it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now I want to dive into all of this and talk about the massive implications for Donald Trump's war on Iran and what this means for the next decade of the American economy. But it all starts with what Donald Trump was asked regarding China aiding Iran just a few days ago, and his complete surrender on the issue. This is the definition of Trump's weakness. We are going to get into that before we move to the breaking news about his summit being blown up and shut down.
I believe China's helping Iran right now. You're supposed to meet with President Xi in a couple of weeks. What's the latest there? What's your communication?
I don't think much. I think they may be helping, but I don't think much. They could. I can tell you this: they could help a lot more. I'm not overly disappointed. We help people too. When they would say, "No, well, what about China? What about Russia? What about this, that?" Well, we also help people. We help Ukraine, as an example, and we shouldn't have done it to the extent. And the war should have never started. Would have never started if I were president. And it's a bloodbath over there. It's horrible. So many soldiers are being killed. It's incredible. It's just crazy, actually. But, you could make the case, well, we help Ukraine. And I don't mention that to too many people, but I mentioned it to you. So, no, I think China could have been much worse than they've been. So I don't consider them having been very bad.
Where exactly is the toughness here? We are currently in a war that Donald Trump claims is existential. Because if it wasn't, why on earth would we even be in it? This is supposedly life or death, as Trump tells us. Because we apparently have to stop Iran from getting a nuclear bomb that they didn't even want before this war started. And yet, when China supports them in this conflict, Trump's reaction is basically, who cares? Are you serious? Now you might try to tell yourself, okay, maybe Donald Trump is just trying not to stir the pot with the Chinese before he arrives for his big summit. Maybe he just wants to be nice, so they'll reciprocate and treat him well. But look at his arrival. How did the tone for this trip actually start? Ben Meiselas broke this down better than anyone possibly could. Donald Trump didn't just look weak getting off that plane. The total lack of high-level dignitaries there to meet him was a loud and clear message. It set a humiliating tone for the entire trip. And that was all before we got the breaking news about how this isn't even really a meeting anymore.
You can see him holding on to the handle for dear life right here. I just find it so interesting that he would always mock former President Biden for this exact thing. And Donald Trump just looks so much worse, so weak, so frail, so pathetic looking. No Xi Jinping, no top level foreign minister there. Here's how state regime media, which calls itself Fox, tried to spin this. And then they admit, oh, it looks like Elon Musk is there. Who else is there? This is how state regime tried to spin it. Here, play this clip.
The president comes in, I think that's Elon Musk right there, I do believe, just behind there. Yes, right in front of the ambassador, David Perdue. So we'll try to pick out a few others. Eric Trump and Laura Trump. We mentioned that a moment ago. So
tomorrow is the bilat, and then he is going to tour some important places. And then on Friday, before they leave, is the tea, and then there is the lunch. These are participants. These kids apparently include 10 American expatriate children that were selected by Chinese organizers to make the president feel warmness of home. You can see the beast is leaving.
Now, as former Ambassador Luis Marino explains, no Xi, no foreign minister, just bells and whistles and lower ranking folks. As someone who has done more than a few POTUS visits abroad, that doesn't happen unless someone, Xi Jinping, is sending a message to Donald.
So Donald Trump starts this trip humiliated before he even sets foot on Chinese soil. He's already surrendered every bit of leverage he had, the one thing he's supposedly obsessed with, by failing to push back on anything. And then Trump finally arrives, gripping that handrail for dear life, looking absolutely exhausted. He probably spent the entire flight wide awake making those unhinged posts on Truth Social instead of preparing. And then the kicker. Absolutely no one of importance is there to greet him. That is how this trip begins for Donald Trump. But where does it go from there? Trump has been teeing this up as the most consequential meeting in history, acting like he's about to walk in and secure a massive deal, because deals are supposedly what he's all about. Is that actually going to happen? Of course it isn't. We are now getting new reporting that the Trump-Xi summit has been downsized as expectations fall. The Trump-Xi meeting in Beijing is now expected to be a limited, low-impact summit focused on maintaining stability rather than major deals. Key topics include trade, Iran, and fentanyl. But analysts say the US has little leverage and Beijing is offering no clear agenda or concessions. Instead of a grand bargain, the talks are likely to yield only modest steps, like extending existing trade truces and maintaining limited sector cooperation. Experts say shifting geopolitical conditions have strengthened China's position, making meaningful breakthroughs unlikely. So let's get this straight. Donald Trump traveled all the way to China just to be met by nobody and to get absolutely nothing done. This is essentially a non-meeting at this point. It's not a summit, it's a failure. There are no breakthroughs, no real discussions happening. Not that Donald Trump would even be capable of getting anything out of a real negotiation anyway. But before we dive deeper into what this means, think about the context. Trump recently cancelled talks with Iran and Pakistan because he complained that a 19-hour flight was too long and not worth it. He actually posted on Truth Social that it didn't make sense to travel for negotiations that would just fall apart. And yet, he turns around and flies to Beijing for what? Nothing is going to happen here. There's no big deal, no breakthrough, and no massive investment. This comes right as Trump is considering, as we discussed a few days ago, allowing China to make a supposed trillion-dollar investment in American manufacturing. He wants them to build plants and control segments of our economy that they would then have total leverage over. It's insane. Even Republicans like Laura Ingraham are calling it a stupid idea that goes against the advice of his own team. But Trump was clearly hoping he could come home and scream, "I secured $1 trillion." It's the same old script. He did it in the Middle East, he does it with Zuckerberg and Bezos. He throws out these made-up numbers that never actually materialize. These aren't real investments. They are just vanity metrics for a man who can't command respect. When I say he is the weakest president in history, this is exactly what I mean. Remember 90 deals in 90 days that was supposed to start last April? Well, it's been over a year. Where are the deals? This is global humiliation for Donald Trump. And if you're Iran, why would you give up any leverage now? New intelligence reports suggest Iran can survive the next 6 months with the Strait of Hormuz closed, while that same closure will drive the American and world economies into a recession, if not a total depression. Why would the Iranians, seeing Trump's weakness with their ally China, give him a single concession? This war has cost us hundreds of billions of dollars. It has injured countless Americans, killed 13 of our service members, and taken the lives of innocent civilians across the Middle East. And what has it gotten us? Nothing. New intel says we've destroyed maybe 30% of Iran's missile capacity, while Trump claims we've wiped them out. It's a lie. Our allies are backing away. Mark Carney says it every day. The future world order sees a Canada more aligned with Europe or China than with a Trump-led United States. This destabilization is exactly what Putin wants. It's what Netanyahu wants, so he can claim Israel is our only loyal ally while he continues to break every ceasefire Trump tries to negotiate. This is the weakness of our president, and it has a direct impact on our lives. This destabilization is exactly what the tech oligarchs and the Peter Thiels of the world want. It's what Jeffrey Epstein wrote about, a world where the wealthiest are more powerful and unaccountable than nation-states. Donald Trump is just stupid enough to give it to them. He is destabilizing the dollar, the economy, and the global order. We are going to keep calling out this incompetence and this global embarrassment on this show. If you want to support what we are doing here, hit that subscribe button and leave a like on this video. And if you've stuck around until the very end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep on fighting, y'all. Don't let them silence you. And until next time, I am Liam Prescott, and I'll see you in the next one.